Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Growth Focus podcast. I am your host, Gary Lafferty, and each episode we bring together tech leaders from all across the globe to share their insights for us in our tech journey. This episode, I'm very pleased to have Indranil, president and founder of Emozo Labs, and he's going to be sharing some of his insights into AI and other aspects which I want you to hold on to and listen to. So without further ado, Indranil, can I ask you to introduce yourself and maybe give us a little brief history of where you started as a technology leader and where you are today?
Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you for having me on this forum, and good day to everyone. I am Indranil, and I am the founder and president of Emozo Labs. We are a Canadian company, a COVID time baby actually, started in end of first quarter, 2020, and have survived so far and have built what I think is a fairly interesting, platform. So I'm happy to share some of my experiences and my journey with the audience today, Gary.
Oh, that'd be fantastic, yeah, because I think in all entrepreneurship, especially when we're bringing something new to the marketplace, it's the journey that counts. It's the journey that how we can see and share.
You're so right.
Yeah, share how other people have done it, etc. So, what for the people who don't know what Emozo Labs actually does, can you just share with us what the aspect of it, what the overall problem-solving challenge that you do, and how you serve your clients?
Sure. So, Emozo Lab is a platform that facilitates remote feedback collection from respondents all around the world and in the wild, as we say in the industry. Our special power, or the special sauce, if you will, is to be able to use the same platform to understand emotional and behavioral responses to digital stimuli of different kind. Now, what do I mean by digital stimuli? It could be a video, whether that's for advertisement or entertainment or education. Could be any kind of digital asset, a web page, a web application, a mobile application, or even a document, pretty much anything that we consume with our eyes and ears on digital screens. So we help agencies and brands understand how their audiences, real or intended, are responding emotionally and behaviorally to that content. And why is that important problem to solve? Because on digital channels, research has long established 95% of all decisions, whether to purchase, to subscribe, to kill a subscription, or deciding not to go ahead, 95% of all such decisions are actually driven by the emotional response that we have to the content we consume. So that's why that's an important problem to solve, and that's the platform we have built.
That's fascinating. And as I said, when you can have data like that, it literally is a game changer, isn't it? It really is, because you really get to, I love when you look at your website there, it says earn your customers' attention, heart and mind. Can you explain a little bit more how this actually works, without obviously giving away your secret sauce, but can you explain how this actually works in some more layman's terms?
Well, in terms of how the platform works, let's say it's best explained with an example.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's say you're sitting in the United States and you are actually going to launch a product, let's say in Taiwan, okay? Could be digital product, could be physical product, and you have a bunch of product-related communications, could be around product marketing, could be other kinds of communication that you have conceptualized and you're, getting them designed, and, in this process, you would want to know whether you're on the right track, whether your messages are going to resonate with the audience that you're meaning to send the messages to, okay? And secondly, will it actually drive the intended behavior? If your communication is to drive conversion of some kind, is it likely to get your audience there? Let's say these are the two things that you want to know. So traditionally, market research or communication research would actually gather people for you, in a lab setting and expose them to your ideas in sort of pre-baked forms. and do a bunch of measurements and get report back to you. Typically takes long, can be error prone. What we have done as a platform is that sitting in the United States, you can actually deploy a study and get respondents from Taiwan in a matter of a few hours or a day. And you can present your stimulus just over digital channels, and respondents can use their digital devices, their own digital devices, connected to the internet, to kind of get exposed to the stimulus. And we use a bunch of AI techniques to understand the emotional reaction and other behavioral reaction. And well, in a matter of hours or a day or so, you have great data back to you saying that, okay, this is how it is likely to be. These are the areas that are good, and for you to retain, these are the areas for you to improve and change. Ultimately, we are helping you create the digital content that is going to have maximum effectiveness in the market that you want it to. So this is how it works. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to talk about the algorithms and the proprietary nature of the game, but it is all browser based. There is nothing to install, maintain. There is no PII that is ever compromised. Just normal mobile phones or laptops or tablets or PCs with cameras. It utilized standard internet connection anywhere in the world. That's what we do.
It is fascinating. What a fascinating tool you've built there. So I'm curious to know, what was the inspiration? You've obviously had a very illustrious career in the technology industry. You're very much a technology leader. What was the inspiration for this? Where did this actually come from?
That's a great question. And I think in a previous podcast in some other forum, I talked about it. It's actually rooted in very deep personal experiences. So my wife, who's a very seasoned, researcher, market research, communication research, UX, CX, etc. I have witnessed at close hand her pain in getting this kind of studies deployed and getting meaningful results back in time to be able to inform, significant decision making at other parts of the organization, right? And I've witnessed that firsthand. And laborious, lengthy, error-prone, frustrating process. And COVID actually pretty much also put an end to that kind of methodology where you actually could gather people in a room and, strap them up with some electrodes and measure their brain signals or just photograph them. I mean, that just went out of the window. So it kind of got me thinking that there has to be a tech solution, or technologies out there that could be put together to create a solution that really takes this pain away, And as you said, my background has been in technology all along, and primarily within that, I've mostly focused on building products and other, all kinds of digital solutions. So, I managed to find resources and technologies that actually helped me build this thing, but the genesis of that was very much that that personal experience. Seeing my wife kind of suffer through that process many times over a course of a year or so.
Right, yeah. What a fascinating story. It's almost like the husband's coming to the rescue again, like the knight on the shining armor.
I cannot quite say that whether I managed to actually help her in the time she wanted the help in, but hopefully I have helped other people down the road who probably would have gone through experiences like my wife would have.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, COVID really put the kibosh and stopped a lot of things of people coming together, when we do this typical market research, putting people into a room, seeing how they all react.
Yeah.
It very much was almost like a bricks and mortar mentality of the way it's always been done. And then when COVID just came along and wiped that out, people just couldn't get together again. So how do you do that research? And it's glad that you've stepped up and with your product to be able to do that. So like all things, being an entrepreneur is always a challenge. You can have the best product, the best service out there that gives value. But it's always going to be challenges, isn't it? What would you say has been the biggest challenge for you as a founder?
Yeah. See, Gary, I could talk for hours on, how difficult was it to, or is it to find customers, particularly during the COVID time? How difficult was it to, manage working capital or, just getting paid, right? But I think those experiences are significant and yet common across a very wide spectrum of entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What I'd rather focus on today is fairly unique to the kind of business we are, and hopefully that's going to give some insight to people who are actually going to be consuming this content if they're in related areas. And that topic is building trust in AI solutions when you're going and pitching it to a business, right?
Absolutely. Now, this is what we want to hear because, through various other interviews that we've done, AI is tremendous. You literally can't go into any tech conversation without mentioning AI. Right? And one thing that comes up, in fact, I was literally interviewing another founder earlier today, and it was the lack of transparency that is available
Absolutely.
within the AI niche. So this is going to be a great topic about building trust on it. So please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk in a little bit of generic terms in first, just to kind of introduce the problem and the rationale as I understand it. And I'm going to talk about some specific things that we had to do. Okay?
Perfect.
See, the resistance to AI adoption in the enterprise, okay, if you will, if such a thing exists, and it does, it typically manifests itself in a bunch of questions and concerns like, is it accurate? Is it unbiased? The next level is, can I get into trouble if I start to depend on this? So not now, down the line, can I get into trouble? Further, will I become redundant, right? My position, my job, my authority. And when you kind of go past this all, there is always the big thing about how am I going to navigate this change, bringing AI into the enterprise, into my own workflow, basically into the processes that I knew to be running in a different way. How am I going to navigate that change? And there can be others, but these are sort of the 5 main areas that I have experienced, okay? Obviously, a nuanced topic.
You're absolutely right. There's, as I said, it's, will I get into trouble? Seems to be a very big one, compliance. Yes, there's the redundancy part of it and saying, will AI make me redundant? And there's a whole master-servant mentality that we have there. But when it comes to compliance, this is a big scare point for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of businesses out there. So I think, we're bang on point here.
Absolutely. As a company, we are sitting and talking about this in 2024. Now imagine the world in 3 years ago, end of 2021, right? Still very much in the middle of COVID. It's a different world. And a lot of the technologies that have matured in this last 3 years, particularly all this hype around, ChatGPT these days, right? It's come to be so much more accepted in our lives than what it was in 2021, right? But the basic problem was still the same. So time and time again, pitching to businesses, we kept hitting this wall and did root cause analysis with our teams as far as as we could. And basically we came up with 5 things why there are resistances, okay? And in random order. Firstly, there is, and there was at that time, an inherent lack of trust in AI, okay? And I'll explain a little later why I think that lack of trust is there, but there is an inherent lack of trust. Secondly, lack of knowledge, and often from our side, our mistake was not being able to articulate the potential benefits and the associated risks well. Okay? Because treating it like a black box is always going to get you into trouble. Then it is something like magic, right? So there is this black box, you feed this in, and on that side a unicorn pops out, right? That cannot happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a business, we needed to articulate the benefits and the associated risks better. As potential buyers needed to ask us better questions to uncover the same information. But we were going through a learning process from both sides at that time, right? Third, particularly true these days, see, there is a general fear caused by the incessant chatter that is around examples of AI mistakes, right? You cannot open a web page today, go to a website without hearing about, large language models hallucinate, which is, they produce incorrect results. Or even so far back in 1995, Google photo identification, AI software had, identified a couple as gorillas. Things have matured way beyond that, but the fact is these are some examples that have happened, that did take place, but there's tremendous amount of chatter around this, right?
Yeah, and this
that
whole
kind of
misinformation, isn't it? It's just total misinformation that people pitch their beliefs on, which is totally untrue.
Yeah, so I think there is, normal human tendency is to probably pick up more on the negative chatter because there is enough news about positive stuff that AI is doing and driving, right? But I think we wouldn't be humans if we were not more concerned about the bad that can happen to us rather than the possibility of the good that is happening. So that's just out there, right? Then the fourth one is, and that's really critical, we often do not trust our own data. We have concerns about the quality of data that we have at our disposal. And we know very well because that if you are going to use bad quality data to train your models, you're not going to get good output, right? I mean, if your underlying data is poor, Gen AI is going to expose to more people how bad that data is, right? So sometimes in businesses, we know inherently that, our sales data is not quite, great. There are gaps in the data. Certain regions are missing, right? We know that, but when from the outside we are going and pitching, we may get a sense, but we often do not know. And the last thing is fear of change, right? You're going to put a new solution in. It means that something is going to change, right? A software by itself cannot be, of any value unless it is consumed as part of a business process. So when an AI solution and AI software is ultimately going to fit in somewhere, and that represents a change, right? So, and not every change is very easily navigable by everyone. So these are the root causes we kind of found, okay? So, just switching gears for just a bit, and you can shut me up anytime you think I'm rambling. If you look at a KPMG report that came out in 2023 on trust in AI systems, it's publicly available. Anyone can look at it on the internet. It makes two really interesting observations. One is that the area where AI solutions today are trusted most is in healthcare, right? And if you think about it, it is very likely the cause is because the potential benefits are better understood and they outweigh the perceived risks. I can use AI 10,000 miles away on a photo of your body part and detect earlier disease that may onset 3 years later. It's a humongous potential benefit, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that is probably the reason AI solutions have done so well in healthcare, and the KPMG report talks about that. It also talks about a second thing, that most people are okay with AI at work as long as humans retain the control.
Yes, and that's
right? So you talked about the master-slave kind of thing a little while ago, right? It's exactly that. Now, so it means that when an AI solution is there to boost my productivity and efficiency, I clearly understand the benefits. It's probably even quantifiable, but I retain control on when I deploy it, when I use it, how I use the result, and that creates for an environment where it is easily accepted, right?
Yes.
So people are using Gen AI to write better emails or to compose college essays. But we control the inputs.
Yes.
We decide when to use it, okay? And it's a productivity boost for us, right? That's a simplistic case. Gen AI is obviously doing a lot more. So these were sort of the generic things. So what did we do? We realized that firstly, it's not a point solution. We cannot flip a switch and in a Zoom call, suddenly people will begin to trust, right? So we came up with something called, I read about it elsewhere also, so I'm not going to claim that I came up with the terminology, but it's a trust ladder.
Yes.
Okay. So you kind of get on higher and higher rungs of the ladder by taking specific actions with the stakeholders that you're trying to build trust in. And it happens over time. Okay. The first part is informing and educating. Okay. It has been well established that the best results are produced when AI agents and human agents work together and learn from one another. So the question of AI coming and making someone redundant, that's not science fiction, but if you are using AI and humans together with great effectiveness, the chances of that happening is low. And there are tons of use cases. So using those use cases, those examples, to establish the fact that AI is not the enemy. It is there to help, and it can only help in the most effective way when you combine that with human beings.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Next is, I talked about, understanding and articulation, understanding the pain points and tailoring our solutions around those. Because extraordinary benefits often provide the courage to navigate the change. If I'm going to make your life so simple in one dimension, you may be willing to go through the change that using that solution will involve, right? So
Yes.
that articulation on a continual basis. You talked about transparency, being transparent. It is not magic. This is what we are doing. Of course, you're not going to go into specific algorithms and stuff like that, but in broad terms, these are the data we are using. This is how we are using is. This is what we are storing. This is what we are putting out. What are the associated risks of that, right? Then for large enterprises, I think underscoring among the stakeholder group on a continual basis the importance of governance. You can use my solution, but the data is yours. The output is yours. You got to
Yeah.
have a structure and a framework to govern that usage well, right? So underscoring that, importance of that, and the importance of data quality. I talked about it a little while ago, right? And actually helping the customers taking specific steps to improve on those areas. So
Yeah.
this is for us, in many cases, this has been a long haul. So I can talk about cases where we have been in the sales process for over a year, just battling through these kind of conversations and educations and value additions and so on. So the good thing is, in many of those cases, it has yielded results. And last but not the least, take a phased approach when you're managing the change. Maybe provide some support. Hold people's hand. Instead of going from 0 to 1 at a flick of a switch, if it's a phased approach, I think the adoption is better. So that's where I'm going to stop. I mean, this has been what we have learned, and I hope this helps other people.
Yeah, I think it definitely does, Indranil, because, as I said, people fear what they don't know. And as you mentioned earlier, it's with the lack of transparency and the lack of knowledge of, we've all heard that what you put in is what is going to come out. Good stuff in, good stuff out, bad stuff in, bad stuff out. But that's only really at a surface level. And then there's all the scaremongering, as you quite rightly says, of, well, this is brand new technology. How open does this leave me? So I think what you just shared there is really, really important when it comes down to gaining that trust and building that trust, with your potential clients, with the potential stakeholders that you have. But more importantly, I think you just hit the nail on the head there. It takes time. And that's one of the biggest challenges is building trust in anything takes time.
Yeah, like a local CEO friend of mine keeps using this sentence. Nothing builds value like patience. Now, I'm not sure it's universally applicable, but in some of the situations that we found ourselves in, that was pretty much the only way to go. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm also going to end by saying that this is obviously far more nuanced a topic than just the parts that I'm covering in this little talk, right? So, there is the whole regulatory issue, and there are regulations that are, country specific, and data, issues, privacy issues. It's a complicated area, and, it needs careful navigation. But if you have a solution that adds value, you believe in that, you will find a way for your customers to see that value as well.
Yeah, you absolutely will. And as you say, with regulations, different countries, compliance, and AI is moving so fast, a lot of people feel they're on the back foot, and that by the time they stop, take into stock, learn something about it, make it compliant, it's already moved on 10 more steps and 10 more flights. And so you're playing this constant game of catch up.
That is correct.
All the time.
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, I think, this has been a fascinating episode, and thank you very much for sharing your insights in there. So if someone wants to, know more about what you do, more about Emozo, or indeed more about your building trust, what's the best way for people to get hold of you?
Yeah, on our website, it is emozo.ai, https://emozo.ai. Otherwise, I can be reached at Indranil, that's my first name, at emozo.ai. I'm happy to share whatever little experience we have gathered with anyone who might be interested. And Gary, I want to thank you for having me on the show and asking me this interesting questions. This could have been a very different discussion when I'm I'm filling up 75 forms just to raise, a few $100s of loan from a bank. But
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk about those things, right? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
something else.
No, well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for sharing your insights with us, Indranil. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've got great value out of this or anything out that Indranil has shared with us today, please make sure you do one of four things, or all four preferably, which is to like, to comment, to subscribe, and to share. So if the more you share interviews like this, the more you share podcasts like this, the more people in our industry can grow. So thank you very much for joining us for this episode. Indranil, thank you very much for your insights today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Likewise, Gary, take care. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, bye-bye, everybody. Take care
Bye.
until the next episode.